Picture a world of absolute perfection, where every need is met and danger simply doesn't exist. Yet, within this ideal setting, a chilling experiment known as Universe 25 saw an entire population vanish without a trace. In 1968, American scientist John Calhoun meticulously crafted what he termed a paradise for mice. Equipped with endless provisions, stable temperatures, and pristine conditions, it housed the healthiest specimens available. Calhoun, an ethologist, dedicated his career to one profound question: what happens to a society when all challenges are removed? For 2 decades, he pursued this answer through 24 previous attempts, each a slightly varied paradise for rodents. In every single one, the same grim cycle repeated: explosive growth, escalating violence, distorted social behaviors, followed by total collapse. His 25th creation, located in a federal lab, was designed as the ultimate, indisputable test, free from any external variables. This 9-foot square enclosure featured multi-level apartments, accessible via mesh tunnels, continuously stocked with food and water. Calhoun estimated this space could comfortably sustain up to 3,800 mice, though it would never come close to that capacity. On the very first day, 8 founding mice, 4 males and 4 females, were introduced into this controlled environment, and the lid was sealed. For the initial 104 days, little changed. The mice explored their new habitat and established their territories. Then came the first litters, marking the start of rapid expansion, with the population doubling every 55 days. By day 315, over 600 animals jostled for space, climbing over each other and piling up in nesting areas. It was at this critical juncture that the entire social structure began to unravel, setting the stage for what came next. In a typical mouse colony, an expanding population would naturally lead to some individuals emigrating to discover and settle new territories. However, within Universe 25, there was no such escape. No new ground existed for the mice to colonize. Consequently, young males, finding no purpose or space, began to drift into the enclosure's center, forming stagnant clusters of inactive bodies. Dr. Calhoun would spend hours observing their profound idleness. They had no territories to defend, no conflicts to engage in, and no mates to pursue. When one of these males was attacked, he wouldn't resist. He would simply endure the assault, then slowly move a short distance and settle back into apathy. Yet, not all males became passive. Simultaneously, another distinct group emerged, exhibiting frantic and entirely indiscriminate behavior. These hyperactive individuals moved rapidly through the habitat, forcefully invading nests and completely bypassing the traditional courtship rituals still practiced by others. They were undeterred even by violence from dominant males, signaling the emergence of behaviors that no healthy mouse society had ever produced. Other mice, unable to find their place in the crumbling social order, sought refuge in the highest apartments, living in isolation, ceasing all interaction and reproduction. Calhoun also identified what he termed the behavioral sink. Despite food being readily available everywhere, mice compulsively congregated around only a few specific feeders. The presence of other mice had become so essential to their feeding instinct that a solitary, empty feeder, no matter how much food it theoretically held, was rendered useless. This resulted in severe overcrowding at a handful of stations, while vast portions of the enclosure remained almost entirely untouched. Then, the mothers still attempting to raise litters began to fail in profoundly disturbing ways, as constant nest defense became an overwhelming burden. The original male protectors grew exhausted from patrolling and abandoned their families, leaving the mothers to defend their nests alone, often while nursing. Under this extreme pressure, mothers began to turn on their own young, abandoning them haphazardly, forgetting which pups were theirs, or even consuming their offspring. Sadly, in certain colony areas, fewer than 1 in 20 newborns managed to survive until they were weaned. Calhoun would later conclude that by this grim stage, the colony's social organization had essentially ceased to exist. While the individual bodies remained alive, the collective structure that bound them together as a species had utterly collapsed. Those few pups who did make it were raised by mothers exhibiting profound indifference to their well-being and survival. Consequently, These young mice grew up without any functional example of what a proper existence within their habitat should entail. As they matured, their conduct was unlike anything Calhoun had ever witnessed in his extensive studies of animal behavior. The males of this new generation never engaged in conflict, never attempted to reproduce, and avoided all forms of social interaction. Their days were spent eating, sleeping, and meticulously grooming themselves, maintaining perfect fur since they never fought. They moved through the colony seemingly oblivious to the presence of any other mouse, existing in complete self-absorption. Calhoun aptly named these particular mice the beautiful ones due to their pristine, healthy external appearance. Despite their flawless looks, they were, in essence, functionally dead, unable to reproduce, socialize, or fulfill any species role. Their nervous systems developed in a world where all social roles were filled, causing them to simply opt out of their species. The population reached its maximum of 2,200 mice on day 560, a number it would never surpass. The final successful conception within Universe 25 occurred on day 920, marking the complete cessation of new offspring. The colony then began a slow decline. The beautiful ones continued grooming, and secluded females remained isolated, as mice died of old age. The mice experienced a spiritual demise long before their physical bodies gave out. Their inner world withered years before their last breath. Upon publication, the world quickly interpreted his findings. Boundless comfort and lack of struggle inevitably lead to self-destruction. The haunting image of the beautiful ones, pristine yet utterly extinct, became a pervasive metaphor in the late 20th century. Urban planners, spiritual leaders, and politicians across the spectrum all invoked this experiment to caution against societal decay. However, this popular interpretation wasn't Calhoun's actual message, despite his true conclusion being clearly stated in his original paper. He argued that for complex beings like humans, such a collapse was not merely possible, but logical. He believed this was true if available roles dwindled. The true culprit, according to Calhoun, wasn't comfort itself, but rather the stark disappearance of meaningful societal roles. As the population surged beyond the available meaningful roles, mice who found no place within the colony simply ceased to function. Fighters lacked adversaries, mothers struggled with nests unassisted, and the young inherited nothing, utterly dissolving the species' foundational structure. While food and water were endless, what truly disappeared was an unquantifiable element, the essential friction that gave existence meaning. Crucially, Calhoun was no prophet of doom. He dedicated his career to preventing collapse, tirelessly building new universes and changing variables. He believed humans could choose differently, advocating we extend into conceptual space by building new roles and networks, a process he called ideational generativity. Yet, the data from that perfectly designed paradise remains: 8 mice, 5 years, complete extinction. A cause of death no scientific report could ever pinpoint. The mice of Universe 25 had no alternative, but for us, the choice remains our own. The future, therefore, rests entirely in our hands. If this exploration of existence and purpose resonated with you, consider sharing your thoughts below and subscribing for more journeys into the human condition.